All right, want to take a few minutes to walk through, demonstrate some of the ideas behind environment variables. Think of them as parameters or really variables, little bits of information that the operating system stores just so processes can keep track of, well, what's the directory for the documents for this user, and what's my computer name and things like that. Easier to kind of see how they work, and we're really just kind of scratching the surface in an exercise you have. But let me jump into our Windows server first and look at them. The way I learned about or got used to environment variables, I'm going to do a CMD prompt. I'm going to, for something I'm going to do later, right-click and run as administrator on this. You don't need it for the first bit, but way back in the DOS days, to look at environment variables and also to set them, well, you'd use the set command. So if you just go, and this works in Linux too, if you type set, you'll see all the environment variables. So you see things like, oh, my system drive is C, my root is Windows, temp stuff will be put here in temp. Just little bits about me, about the session. So this way, say a program or a process that says, well, gosh, I want to put it on the home drive, rather than have that hard-coded as C in that program or process, they just say, OK, environment, tell me what the home drive is, and I'll put it wherever it happens to be. Okay, so that's level one of environment variables. It turns out, though, that the environment variables can kind of come from one of four places. I'm going to pop out of this to show this is the guy. This is a good reference. I could maybe add it as a reference if you really get into environment variables. Usually they just exist and you play with them. Some environment variables are built in. So when the computer starts up, there's an app data environment variable that gets set, and there really is, there might be a way in the startup script or something to set that different, but these are just things that are there when the system starts, and we really don't kind of fiddle with those. They're there and provided by the operating system. That's the way to look at it. So we saw some of these app data, the home drive, and that kind of thing done. So there's probably got to be a way to set that if you wanted something different. But it's kind of when you install the operating system, it knows what the home drive is. And so that's something it knows, and so we don't fiddle with it. That's kind of level one. Maybe most fundamental. Maybe the least fundamental are environment variables that last for a session. And then we'll look to middle two levels in a second. So I could do, say, set my EV for my environment variable equal to, this is my EV, some particular value. And now, if I look at set, I'll see that my EV has that value. So if I was doing a bat file in this session, you can also get a particular value by doing echo and then space around the thing, and it will show it to you. We don't need to be careful about the capitalization in a Windows system. We do in Linux. There's a difference between in Linux. Those are two different things in Linux, but they're the same for us. So that's the way to get the value. And so the idea is maybe if we started a script or something like that, we could set that environment variable, and then further down in the script, it could look at that variable to see what it is. The thing is that I'm just coming into PowerShell here. In PowerShell, it's lsenv to list all the environment variables. The thing to notice is, well, we see them all, but we don't see that my EV in this list. And that's because the way I did it here with the set variable, that is local just to this particular process that got started when I did this command prompt. Turns out I didn't need the administrate. In fact, if I exit and come back in to this and then do set that it lost. Okay, when I exited the command prompt, the one that was done with the set my EV equal, that sets a variable just for that particular kind of process, and it's local to that process. All right. Great. I'm just going to sort of, a lot of these things happen when you start fresh. Again, doing it from the command prompt, and then we'll look at doing it with the GUI to set a variable that's for me, but has a little bit of permanence. There's a set X command, and I think I have the syntax right. And so that set X, and this is Windows now. The set stuff will work in Linux. Linux doesn't have a set X, so this is a Windows ID. And it does turn out that I have to start another command session to, not ls, we want to do set, to see that value. And now if I do start a PowerShell, that's kind of more permanent. If I do lscmv, we see that, okay, that variable is now, it's kind of associated with me, and any process I start after doing that set X version, then it will be there. So that's kind of a third level. There's those ones that you're given without having to do anything. Probably change them at at startup or by reconfiguring the system. Might look at that. Yeah, what if I wanted a startup drive different than C? Let's not worry about that now. There's the very lightweight where I use set equal, but with set X, it sets it for the user. If you read about environment variables, there's a number of ways to get to them. I'm going to use maybe control panel. If we go to system and system, I don't come this way off in advanced. A lot of things have you look at environment variables this way. So that set X command that I did was equivalent to creating an environment variable for me. Okay, and I could get rid of it by doing this. I could have added one at a GUI without the command line by having it done new here. It turns out, time to look at this, there's a registry. Edit. I'm going to right click and you don't have to do that, just kind of showing you where a lot of information is squirreled away. And these user variables and system-wide variables are stored in this thing called the registry, which is a database. The system-wide ones, that is the things that are down here, are stored in the registry in, it's kind of like a hierarchy. It's the local machine, system, current control, set control, session manager, environment, and we could work on, not a good way to do it, but we could modify, delete, add variable, things in here, and then they would be part of the set as well. Okay, so there's that. The local ones, if I remember correctly, are in the. I think there's a current user environment. Yeah, so that's really where this my EV. So one way to fiddle with that is to kind of change it in the registry, and I think if we just cancel that and maybe look at them again, we can see that it got it there. I don't know that. Right, so it has my EV value, but if I start another command window after making the change, and it's kind of, that's where it picks it up, is kind of when the process starts. that would get my adjusted EV value. Interesting. Huh. Okay. There's a good question of when that would get changed. It did show up here and not there. Okay. I'm just now curious in PowerShell. Usually we don't kind of go through the okay, interesting. Probably, I think I have to log off and log back on for those guys, for that to show up in those guys. Let me just try that. There's always just to sign out. Shouldn't take but a second to sign out and sign back in. Just kind of wanted to see. So kind of whenever you make a system change and it doesn't seem to be working, let's see. Heck. When it's not. Now if I run a command prompt, so now I got so I had to log out and log back in to get that new environment variable because I didn't finish the thought. Sometimes when you make system changes, give the user a new setting, make sure they log out and back in or something like that for these things to take. Just somewhere in there. Sometimes you restart the system. So that's kind of a little bit about environment variables. It turns out if you want to do, the way we got there, it was to control panel. You can also right-click and get properties on the thing and get to advanced system settings and environment variables. These are just visible to me. I could do this, but if I logged into the same computer as somebody else, they wouldn't see these, but they would see these. So if you want to make something a system variable that applies to everyone, well, you could use the regedit and go to that second area for the system. You could put it in here, and then it would be available in the system from the command prompt if you were going to do that. Oops, this one is where I do need the administrative authority. That's the equivalent of doing sudo, right, in Linux. There's the set X, and you use a M switch. Interesting. I didn't put the last quote on there, so I'm not sure, and I've got to get out of this now. What it'll be, okay, if I go to environment variables, should have taken it. Do this one more time without fat fingering. Go in as administrator. And you don't have an equal sign when you use set X. Right? I know I have to exit and come back into command to get that. Yeah, so there's my sys EV now. And let's cancel this. If I go to new variables, it came in that time. I don't know what it took when I didn't have the quote on the end. That's just a mistake. It said, oh, it took it, but good. So environment variables. Now, if somebody else logged into the system, they would have this one, and it's kind of there permanently. All right. So that's kind of one thought, how you set them. You can delete them. Probably easiest to delete them through the GUI. You could edit the registry. There's a way to do a command line to delete it from the command line. If I ask you to do one, it's okay to do the simple session. Okay. And there you do use an equal sign. If it's going to be a sentence, something, you don't actually need it in quotes. And so you'll see that my sesh EV is there. So when I say do one, that's nice enough. We realize if we exit and come back, we will that will be gone because of the way we set it up. So okay, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of a path. Okay, this is important, and it's in Linux as well. The path environment variable, because it has to do with where am I going to find a program when you just give me a program name. You know, I've been doing things like dir or something, and it turns out that dir is in the kernel or the command com, kernel, like the center of the core, and that's a command that's kind of always in memory. But lots of commands actually get read from they're in systems, like in Windows System 32, or Windows, or WBEM, or this the path command helps identify where to find those commands. And let's take a little look on how it works. I have given you. That's where I logged back out and back in. I was thinking I'd come into this, get it all set up, but we can get there the old-fashioned way. In the agenda, I'd given you next to this video a couple of links, and this mydir.bat you can just get, and I'm doing it from within the VM, and I saved it into documents, and I've already done this. And I'll just open folder I'm going to edit that just to look at it. Couldn't be verified. Great. What this bat file does, that is like a script at the operating system level, doesn't even need PowerShell, it's the old kind of thing. But what this does is tell me where I'm running it from, and telling me the version that's running when I do mydir. Okay, so I'm in T. Schultz. Let me CD down to documents. I don't need to be worried about casing here. If I do dir, I see that mydir is there, and if I go mydir, okay, and it does pause, then at the end it says I'm running this from, that is, my working directory is C users T Schultz documents, and the version I'm running is in this folder, C documents as well. And if I go up here and do mydir, it says I don't recognize that as a command, because if you just type a command name, it looks in this current folder, and then it looks in the path to see where it might be. I could from here go documents, mydir, okay, and it says, oh, you're running it from, you're positioned in this folder, but you're running the version in that folder. All right, let's look at this path command again. Or I'm sorry, this path environmental variable. So if I copy this mydir from there, and I'm going to put it in C Windows. Now, no good reason. Well, maybe there is a good reason to do this. Like the path, but this is where I need to come in, and have done this as an administrator. I've been in and out so many times. But all right, notice that when I came in as administrator, it put me somewhere else, but I want to go to, it's going to be easier to go up to CD. And now I want to copy from documents. I could do this with the GUI. mydir.bat to C Windows. All right, copied it that time. And remember, and I had this before, but just trying to show you how all this works. So before, when I just tried mydir from here, okay, nothing happened. because there was no MyDir in the folder. But I copied it into C Windows. Notice that even though I'm positioned here, the version that's getting run is the version that happens to be in the Windows folder, because that's where I copied it to. Now notice if I copy that, okay, I'm going to put it now down in System32 inside of Windows. So I've got two copies of the same bat file. All right. Now if I do MyDir, it's saying, well, you're here, but it's running the version that is there, because in this path list, System32 comes before this. And sometimes this is a way to do a hack, if you will, or break it when if you can insert, if you know somebody uses a command and you can get your hacked or bogus version of the command higher up in the path, then it will get that, you'll snake your version in there. They may have their version there. If you put your version here and they use this as a utility all the time, it's a way to kind of get a hack, and that's why sometimes it's nice to be sure you're running the version that you think you are. If I go down into Documents folder, where I do have this MyDir bat, I don't have to put the BAT on the end. Well, the way it works in Windows is it kind of says, well, can I find this first? Can I find this thing in the kernel in Command Com? I haven't got so far as to do something that duplicates that. That is, make a command that's MyDir that we add to the kernel. So it first says, well, let me look in the kernel. If I don't find it in the kernel, let me look in the current directory. Okay. If I don't find it in the current directory, then I'm going to go down the path, folder by folder, and see if I find it in any of those places. And if I don't find it in any of those places, finally I'm just going to say, I don't have it. Okay. There is no xxdir, but it checked all those places. So that's a little bit how the path command works. There are ways sometimes when you install software that you want to change the path command, maybe to include a particular path that you have, place where you've installed software come automatically. But I think I've probably given you way more than you need just to complete the assignment. I think you have to set a variable, echo it back, maybe show me the path, and do that in Windows and then in Linux. So give me a second or two and we'll flip around and do some of the same stuff in Linux. All right, let's take a little look at how these environment variables work in Linux. Enough's the same that you almost feel like you can do it confidently, and then there's enough that's just different that it will bite you where it's a little bit painful. But I've gotten into a Linux box, and I've got the terminal open. I'm going to use the GUI for a few things. But here I am, and I am just in this is what they call the home folder. And you can do set, okay, and that will show you all the environment variables. Turns out that there's one of the few of the environment variables is almost like a whole program of script. So you kind of have to go up, and then there's some colors and some things that get set. But here's kind of how we're used to seeing. And remember, environment variables are these pieces of information that are just part of the system and including. And it's easier, I think, to see. There's a command print env that I guess doesn't do all the local variables. These are just the system, and this looks more like what we're used to. There's the login name, and there's a window path, but there's also, and if you know a particular one, you can just say echo and you put a $sign in front. Got to get the casing right, but there's this path command, and it turns out to do something like create one. You don't say set equal, and if you want it to be a string, you put it in single quotes, and that's a way to got to get the casing right. Get the and I think it'll be in print in to get that part of the thing. Did it? It's there and available. Whether it would appear on this list, I don't know. There it is. Yeah, my EV, Hello World, right? So you can set them, you can access them. They're now just variables. You know, we accessed it by using $sign in front, percent surrounded in Windows, but there we go. All right, so very similar to be able to set them and get them. I want to look a little bit at this, the path command, and be sure that we see that it works very nearly the same as in Windows. In our agenda, I put I just want to refresh this, and going to get this. Now it's going to save this. I'm using the GUI, got into Firefox, got to the course, and I'm downloading this thing. So put it into downloads. I can show that to you. So if I do, not dir, but ls downloads, I now have this MITRE bash script. I'm going to make it executable. Okay, and so the idea is if I just try to bash from where I am, it says, oh, I don't know anything called that. I can bash my dir documents and give it the full name. What did I do there? Documents. It's not in documents. It's in downloads. I was practicing when I put it in documents, but it's in downloads, so there is no such file or directory. And and I think I've got a couple of, I was playing with it, but the important two lines, well, why don't we, I'm going to fix this up. Nano, it's got a couple of bogus lines. I was working on it in a Windows computer, but the important lines are where I've run it from and the run version that's going. I'm going to see if I can real quickly get rid of and I think it's because I got some extra lines in there. We can look at the script. Remember, PWD shows me my working directory. Print the working directory where I happen to be physically located. And this is something that took me a couple of hours really to find a way to get what is the folder that the script itself is running from. So let me save that and overwrite it, and now see if that cleaned that up. It got a couple of lines that, again, I edited it in Notepad in Windows and copied it over, so we can do that. Well, great, and that doesn't tell us much, but that said, oh, the script that was running was in the Home T. Schultz downloads, because I was in Home T. Schultz and I pointed into downloads. All right, I want to show you, though, that the path command, and remember, if I just try to, from where I sit right now, bash that file, it doesn't find it, right? It's down in downloads, and I happen to be in home. But if I now copy, and I'm going to need to do sudo in front of this because I'm going to copy to a system folder, downloads, my dir.sh, and put a copy, and I'm just going to choose this user local bin, kind of the second one down there, USR, local bin. Just to make sure I am who I say I am. Great. Remember a couple of commands ago when I tried this before, it didn't work. Now it does, okay, it does something, and even though I'm running from here, via the path command, it's just saying, oh, the version you're running happens to be in user local bin, because the path command says, oh, if you don't find it where you are, then start going down this list. And if I happen to copy that just one more time. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to put it, instead of user local bin, I'm going to put it user local sbin. A little bit earlier in the path. So this one found the one in local bin. If all this worked out, okay, notice now the version that's running is the one that's in sbin, right? Because sbin is earlier on the path. And there are ways to add items to the path. In fact, I think it's in etc environment on a Linux box where you can set the path. So, and there's other places you can permanently set the environment variables, but when Linux starts up, this is where, or I guess when a person logs in is more accurate, this is where it gets the path for that, and you could then edit that file and change that to include another folder if you wanted, to have it automatically look into. So you don't have to change the path or anything. I think in the assignment I asked you to show me the path and set a particular variable and then show me that variable. I don't think it's my EV. I think it's Fave Course or something, right? And just to show that you can work with these environment variables a little bit. So they're just part of the operating system. You know, what do you do with it? You keep it in mind, and when something happens, or you need to know, well, gosh, what is the the current logged in user, and I'd like it to be general purpose. Then there's a way to get that. All right. So yeah, good luck finishing that assignment. Till I see you next time. Bye bye.